Well, in a fast way, I'm going to record, I'm going to explain three different aspects. Remember that last class we were dealing, that's going to be just approach, method, and technique, okay? Remember that the approach is going to be something like at the everything, right? That is going to be just, for example, there's a correlative assumptions within with the nature of the language and language of nature, learning, and teaching. Therefore, in here, you're going to find the theories, the roles of the student, the teacher, the material, what to teach, what not to teach, what some experts have said about this. And for example, how language is developed, how language is taught, and how language is going to be learned. Got it? Wow. So far so good. That was that I said, right? So let's see right here. So approach is going to be the level of which assumptions and beliefs about language and language learning are specified, right? Then the second part is going to be just method. So the one that follows the approach. That is going to be just the theory is put into practice. Remember, approach is the whole theory. Method is going to be just the way in which we're going to take this theory into the context, right? So at which choices are made about particular skills to be taught, the content to be taught, and the order in which the content will be presented. So for example, the structure of a class, right? Of a whole class. I'm talking about the class that starts in January and finish in June, right? And then the technique is going to be just some in which some is the procedure, right? That you're going to take into account or you're going to implement in one class inside the classroom, right? This deals with only one particular issue that is established in the method. So the tiny part is going to be the technique. The one that contains a lot of techniques is going to be a method. And the one that contains a lot of methods is going to be the approach, right? As you see it right here. So number one, the approach is going to contain both things, a theory of the nature of the language and a theory of the nature of language learning. The method is going to be just related to the design. Sorry, yes.
But why does it have approach inside the method?
No, I think there's going to be a problem with this, right? Because method should be here. Well, anyway.
So teacher, you said something like
I remember Richard and Rogers. I read that like 15 years ago. Yeah, what Richards and Rogers says is that the method in this case, for example, is going to be based on what the approach says, right? So for example, let's say the traditional method, but the traditional method says that there's going to be a theory of the nature of language. That the nature of language is going to be just receptive, right? And the theory of the nature of language learning is going to be just related to grammar and translation. That's it, right? So the method is going to contain some aspects from the theory, but this theory belongs only to the approach. That's it. Now that I remember that. Okay. Okay, cool. In the design, talking about the method, right? In the design, you're going to set the objectives, the syllabus, the types of learning and teaching activities, the roles of the learner, the teacher, and the material, right? But yet again, inside the approach, we're going to find that too. But the method is going to be just specific with by taking into account the objectives and the syllabus model. And the procedures, as you see right here, there's going to have the classroom techniques, the practices, behaviors, the resources, the time, the space, the interaction, and the strategies. That's all. Okay. Now, by taking this into account, there are going to be just three different views of the nature of the nature of the language. So we have these three that are going to be just the structural view, the functional view, and the interactional view, right? So the structural view It's going to be just the way in which the language has been composed, it has been created, right? So it's going to be just the systems, the icons, the symbols, the rules, right? Okay. Then we have the functional view of the language. So it's going to be just like the way in which we're going to use this for expressing the meaning, right? So as we see right here, a vehicle for the expression of functional meaning. And the first one is going to be just the interaction. One, you know the structure and the way that structure has been designed for. So we're going to see, for example, how the language is going to have an interpersonal relation, a social interaction between individuals. Okay, now, assumptions about the nature of the language. So in this case, for example, we're going to say that the language is a group of sounds with a specific meaning and organized by grammatical rules. Okay, so that is going to be taken into account by the silent way. Question: what was the definition of the silent way? Or what was the silent way about? I think I'm going to add another point in the quiz.
Paralinguistic communication.
Paralinguistic communication in the silent way? Really?
Could be.
No. No, paralinguistic, no. No. Remember, the teacher right here is not going to interact at all, just when it is going to be required. But the student is going to talk every time. Okay, so that is going to be the silent way. Okay, the second part says language is everyday spoken utterance of average person at normal speed. That is going to be the audiolingual method. So remember, in the silent way, in the direct way, the error is something bad, but in the audiolingual method, you're going to express your ideas at your level. Okay, then we have this.
Teacher.
Yes.
Teacher is something like they tolerate the errors.
Yes, errors are tolerated inside the audiolingual method, but not in the direct method. Okay. And not even in the silent way. Okay, cool. So for example, here in the communicative language teaching. So language is a system of expressions of meaning. So therefore, we're going to express our ideas to a whole community, right? And that community is going to create or is going to give us those kind of appreciations for us to keep on working, okay, or for us to improve the way in which we're going to use the language. The number 4 says language is a set of grammatical rules, and language consists of language chunks, total physical responses. So language chunks in this case are going to be just the orders, right? So for example, open the door, then you stand up and go and open the door. This is going to be just related to the speech act. Remember the locutory, illocutory, and perlocutory elements. Okay. About the definition of learning, because we need to implement this into the classes, right? So Pritchard, 2009 says that number 1, there is going to be a change in behavior as a result of experience and practice. Therefore, if you learn the theory, you can implement that into the real world, right? So that's point number 1. The acquisition of knowledge. So how do you acquire knowledge? Okay, by listening, by reading, by researching. Number 3, knowledge gained through study. That is going to be just related to the acquisition of learning. Number 4, to gain knowledge of or skill in through study, teaching, instruction, or experience. Number 5, the process of gaining knowledge once again. But this, the first one, it says the acquisition of knowledge and the process of gaining knowledge. Sorry, I made a mistake right here. Remember that the acquisition is going to be some like a getting all the knowledge in a passive way, right? So you're going to, sorry, you mind to repeat that again?
Like the monitors?
Yes, could be like the monitors, but even better. Remember that one of the ideas related to the acquisition learning process hypothesis by Krashen, right? In which Krashen says that acquiring is going to be just a passive moment or a passive role for you to earn something, earn knowledge, right? And learning is going to be a conscious state.
Unconscious.
Very good. Acquisition is going to be unconscious, and learning is going to be conscious. Okay. The sixth part says a process by which behavior is changed, shaped, or controlled. Yeah, that's part of learning. And number 7 says the individual process of constructing understanding, constructing understanding based on experiences from a wide range of sources. So there you can say that we're going to use empirical issues with scientific issues, or theoretical issues, for us to get the knowledge or the learning process. Therefore, we're going to see right here in a fast way the nature of language learning. So the nature of language learning is going to be just related into 3 parts. Number 1, behaviorism, right? As you see, for example, Pavlov and I think Skinner, they talk about something related to the the stimulus response fact. If I give you something, if you do something and I give you something in exchange, you're going to learn, right? Remember that the salivation process of the dog, once the dog listens to a bell, right? Because there's going to be a relationship between the sound of the bell and the feeding time. Okay. Then something related from Kodrati says the nativism. The nativism right here states that the child naturally has a language acquisition device, right? So that is going to be just relationship. And then by Piaget, we have the constructivism, right? And the constructivism is going to be just related learning the language through interaction between the child and the environment. So leading the child to learn under his or her own conceptions of learning, right? So in this case, we're talking about research at a very basic way. Guys, please restart the connection, because we're going to we're going to keep on working here and until 5.